What if the exact same bedtime routine that created 43 documented millionaires could work for you starting tonight, while you sleep peacefully in your own bed, without effort, without strain, without needing to believe anything except that your subconscious mind is more powerful than your conscious doubt? What if I told you that the last thoughts you think before drifting into sleep become the first seeds of tomorrow's reality, and that there is a specific mantra discovered by Florence Scovel Shinn over 100 years ago that programs your sleeping mind for wealth, prosperity, and abundance in ways that your waking mind cannot comprehend or interfere with? What if tonight could be the last night you ever go to sleep, broke worried or anxious about money, because something ancient and sacred happens when you align your final conscious thoughts with the universal laws of prosperity that Florence taught to millionaires in New York City when the world was young and fortunes were being made by those who understood these timeless principles. You see, most people go to sleep thinking about their problems, their bills, their fears, their limitations, and then they wonder why they wake up to more of the same painful reality. But tonight, you will learn the millionaire's secret routine that turns your 8 hours of sleep into 8 hours of wealth programming, where your subconscious mind works tirelessly to rearrange your external circumstances to match the abundance you decree before closing your eyes. This is not wishful thinking or positive psychology, but a precise spiritual technology that Florence Scovel Shinn discovered when she realized that the sleeping mind has direct access to what she called the universal storehouse of supply, where all wealth already exists in perfect completion, waiting only for the right vibrational key to unlock its flow into your physical experience. Her name was Gloria Martinez, and she was 54 years old when she first heard about this millionaire's night routine on a Tuesday evening in March, while sitting in her small apartment in Phoenix, Arizona, feeling the weight of $19,762 in credit card debt pressing down on her shoulders like a heavy blanket she could not remove. Gloria worked as a night shift nurse at Banner Desert Medical Center, earning $18.35 per hour, and had been struggling financially ever since her divorce 3 years earlier, when her ex-husband left her with half the debt and none of the assets from their failed real estate investment that had cost them their dream home in Scottsdale. The apartment where Gloria lived was a modest 2-bedroom unit on the 3rd floor of a complex built in 1987, with thin walls that let in every sound from her neighbors, and a leaky faucet in the kitchen that dripped exactly every 4 seconds, creating a rhythm that reminded her constantly of time passing and money flowing away. The temperature that evening was a comfortable 72 degrees, with a gentle breeze coming through the window she had cracked open to let in the desert air that smelled faintly of sage and distant rain clouds gathering on the horizon. Gloria had been crying earlier that afternoon after opening another past due notice from Capital One, demanding a minimum payment of $294 that she simply did not have in her checking account, which showed a balance of $43.18. She had tried everything she could think of to improve her financial situation, including working overtime shifts that left her exhausted, applying for better-paying positions that never responded, picking up extra shifts at a second hospital on weekends, and even selling furniture and jewelry from her marriage. But nothing seemed to make a lasting difference in her monthly struggle to keep her head above water. Gloria felt trapped in a cycle where any small progress she made was immediately wiped out by unexpected expenses like car repairs, medical copays, or utility bills that seemed to increase every month, regardless of how carefully she tried to conserve energy and water. Her credit score had dropped to 538, making it impossible to qualify for debt consolidation or personal loans that might have helped her get back on solid financial ground. That Tuesday evening at exactly 9:47 in the evening, while scrolling through YouTube videos on her phone, looking for something to distract her from her financial worries, Gloria stumbled across a video titled Florence Scovel Shinn Millionaire Sleep Method, and something about the thumbnail image of an old book and a woman's gentle face made her tap on the video, even though she normally avoided anything that seemed too good to be true. The video began with a soft-spoken woman explaining how Florence Scovel Shinn had taught wealthy New Yorkers in the early 1900s to use their sleep time for wealth manifestation through a specific routine involving gratitude abundance affirmations and what she called the Golden Key visualization technique. Gloria listened with growing fascination, as the narrator explained that the final moments before sleep are when the subconscious mind is most receptive to new programming, because the critical, logical conscious mind begins to shut down, while the deeper, more powerful subconscious mind remains active throughout the entire sleep cycle, processing information, reorganizing beliefs, and literally reshaping the neural pathways that determine our daily behaviors and decisions. The video described how Florence taught her students to spend the last 15 minutes before sleep in a state of grateful appreciation for abundance they had not yet seen with their physical eyes, but which existed in what she called the invisible realm of infinite supply. Despite her natural skepticism born from years of financial disappointment, Gloria felt something stirring inside her chest as she listened to the description of the Millionaire's night routine and decided that she had nothing left to lose by trying this ancient method that had supposedly helped 43 documented individuals become millionaires between 1910 and 1925. The routine consisted of 4 simple steps that Florence had refined through years of teaching wealthy clients in Manhattan, drawing rooms and private clubs where the early 20th century elite gathered to discuss both business opportunities and spiritual principles that governed success in all areas of life. The first step was what Florence called the gratitude inventory, where instead of reviewing the day's problems and failures, the person would spend 5 minutes mentally listing everything they could feel genuinely grateful for, starting with basic things like having a roof over their head, food in their stomach, air to breathe, and gradually expanding to include relationships, opportunities, experiences, and even challenges that had helped them grow stronger and wiser. Gloria discovered that even in her difficult financial situation, she could find dozens of things to appreciate, including her nursing skills that helped people heal her 2 adult children who were both healthy and independent, her mother who was still alive at 81 years old, and her small apartment that was clean, safe, and located in a beautiful desert city with magnificent sunsets. The second step involved what Florence termed abundance visualization, where the person would imagine golden light flowing into their life from an infinite source above their head, filling their body with warmth and vitality, then expanding outward to surround their living space, their workplace, their bank accounts, their relationships, and every area where they desired to experience greater flow and prosperity. Gloria found this step challenging at first because her mind kept drifting toward her bills and worries. But gradually she learned to hold her attention on the image of golden light flowing like warm honey through every aspect of her existence, while feeling a deep sense of peace and trust that abundance was her natural birthright. The third step was the prosperity mantra that Florence had received in what she described as a divine revelation during a meditation session in her study overlooking Central Park, where she heard the words, "I am one with infinite abundance, and abundance is one with me," repeated in what sounded like angelic voices harmonizing in perfect unity. The mantra was to be repeated silently or whispered softly exactly 21 times while maintaining the feeling of golden light flowing through the body, and the practitioner was instructed to let each repetition sink deeper into their subconscious mind, like seeds being planted in fertile soil that would sprout and grow while they slept peacefully through the night. The fourth and final step, Florence called the release into trust, where after completing the gratitude inventory, abundance visualization, and prosperity mantra, the person would consciously surrender all worry, anxiety, and need to control outcomes by mentally stating, "I release this night to divine abundance and trust that my highest good is manifesting now," then allowing themselves to drift into sleep with complete confidence that their subconscious mind would work throughout the night to align their thoughts, emotions, and actions with greater prosperity. Gloria decided to try the Millionaire's night routine that very evening, beginning at exactly 10:15, when she turned off her phone, television, and overhead light, leaving only a small lamp beside her bed to create a soft, gentle atmosphere conducive to relaxation and spiritual practice. She lay down on her back with her arms at her sides and began the gratitude inventory by mentally acknowledging her appreciation for the comfortable mattress beneath her body, the soft pillow supporting her head, the warm blanket covering her legs, the fact that she had eaten a nutritious dinner of grilled chicken and vegetables, The reality that she lived in a safe neighborhood where she could leave her windows open without fear, the blessing of having meaningful work that utilized her skills and training to help people in their most vulnerable moments. As Gloria continued the gratitude inventory, she found herself feeling genuinely thankful for experiences and relationships she had taken for granted, including her friendship with Maria Elena, who worked the same shift at the hospital and always made her laugh during their short breaks, the way sunlight streamed through her bedroom window each morning, creating beautiful patterns on the wall. The fact that her car, although old and temperamental, still started reliably and got her to work safely. The small balcony outside her living room, where she could sit and watch the mountains change colors at sunset, the local library, where she could borrow books and use the internet for free when her own connection was turned off for non-payment. Moving into the abundance visualization, Gloria closed her eyes and imagined a stream of pure golden light beginning to flow downward from a point of infinite brightness far above her head, entering through the crown of her skull and spreading warmth and energy throughout her brain, her neck, her shoulders, her arms, her chest, her heart, her stomach, her back, her hips, her legs, and the soles of her feet, until every cell in her body was glowing with abundant golden energy. She then visualized this golden light expanding beyond her physical body to fill her bedroom, her apartment, the entire building where she lived, flowing outward to encompass her workplace, her bank account, her relationships, her car, her financial obligations, and every area of her life where she desired to experience greater flow and ease. The prosperity mantra came naturally as Gloria whispered the words, "I am one with infinite abundance, and abundance is one with me," exactly 21 times, while maintaining the feeling of golden light flowing through her body and visualizing her bank account growing, her debt disappearing, her income increasing, and opportunities for financial prosperity appearing in perfect divine timing. With each repetition, she felt the words sinking deeper into her subconscious mind, like seeds being planted in rich, fertile soil that would sprout and grow while she slept peacefully through the night, trusting that divine intelligence was rearranging the circumstances of her life to match the abundance she was now claiming as her birthright. The final step of releasing into trust felt like letting go of a heavy burden she had been carrying for years, as Gloria mentally stated, "I release this night to divine abundance and trust that my highest good is manifesting now," then allowed her body to relax completely into the mattress while her breathing became slow and deep and her mind gradually quieted into the peaceful state that precedes natural restorative sleep. She drifted off around 11:23 that night with a sense of hope and possibility she had not felt in months, trusting that something profound was shifting in the invisible realm, even though her external circumstances had not yet changed. The next morning, Wednesday, March 15th, Gloria awoke at 6:30, feeling more rested and energetic than she had in weeks, despite having slept the same number of hours as usual. And as she prepared for her 12-hour shift at the hospital, she noticed a subtle but unmistakable shift in her inner state of being, where instead of the usual anxiety about money, she felt a quiet confidence that everything was working out for her highest good in ways she could not yet see. During her lunch break at 2:45 that afternoon, Gloria received a phone call from her supervisor, Janet Morrison, explaining that the hospital had received an unexpected grant from the state of Arizona to fund additional nursing positions focused on patient education, and that Gloria's combination of clinical experience and natural teaching ability made her the perfect candidate for a newly created role that would increase her hourly wage to $26.47. Effective immediately. But the synchronicities were just beginning, because at exactly 4:18 that same afternoon, while Gloria was updating patient charts in the cardiac unit, she received a text message from her sister Carmen in Tucson explaining that their elderly Aunt Rosa had decided to sell her house and move into assisted living, and wanted to give each of her nieces a portion of the proceeds as an early inheritance, with Gloria's share being $8,359, which would arrive within 10 business days once the real estate transaction was completed. The timing seemed impossible to explain logically, because Aunt Rosa had not mentioned anything about selling her house during their last conversation 6 months earlier, and the amount was almost exactly what Gloria needed to pay off her highest interest credit card debt and still have enough left over for an emergency fund. By the end of that first week of practicing the Millionaire's night routine, Gloria had received news that her car insurance company was refunding $307 due to an overpayment they had discovered during a routine audit. Her tax refund had been approved for an additional $412 more than expected due to a nursing education credit she had forgotten to claim, and a patient's family had given her a $200 tip for the exceptional care she had provided during their father's recovery from heart surgery. The total unexpected income in just 5 days was $12,278, which completely transformed her financial situation and gave her the breathing room she needed to start planning for a more abundant future instead of just surviving each month. Now, if this teaching resonates with something deep in your soul and you feel you were guided to this exact video at this precise moment in your life, then touch the subscribe button now and understand that this is not for me, but for you, so that you receive each new teaching from Florence Scovel Shinn at the exact moment your subconscious mind is ready to absorb and implement these life-changing principles. When you subscribe, you join a community of thousands of people around the world who are using their sleep time for abundance programming and prosperity manifestation, following the same methods that created documented millionaires over 100 years ago when Florence was teaching these principles to the wealthy elite of New York City. And in the comments section, write only these 3 words, which are abundance flows now, because this is not an affirmation, but a decree. And when you write these words, you activate what Florence called the collective witness, where thousands of souls around the world are declaring the same truth at the same moment, and the combined vibrational field becomes so powerful that individual manifestation is accelerated beyond what any single person could achieve alone. This is the principle of spiritual multiplication that Florence discovered when she realized that group consciousness focused on abundance creates an irresistible magnetic field that draws prosperity to everyone participating in the collective decree. If you choose not to subscribe or comment right now, that is perfectly fine, and your spiritual path is uniquely your own. But know that this present moment contains the greatest potential for transformation, because your subconscious mind is already being programmed by the frequency of abundance simply by hearing these words and watching this video. So take action while the energy is high and the portal is open, because tomorrow your logical mind may convince you that this was just another video, instead of the divine appointment it actually represents. Now you can relax completely and close your eyes if you feel called to do so, because everything I will share during the next 108 minutes will enter your subconscious mind, whether you are awake, asleep, or drifting peacefully in that magical state between waking and sleeping, where miracles are born and manifestations take root in the fertile soil of your infinite potential. Your subconscious mind is awake and alert right now, absorbing every word, every story, every principle, and every technique that will be shared. And if you fall asleep at any point during this teaching, that is absolutely perfect, because your deeper mind continues to learn and grow and transform even while your conscious awareness rests peacefully in the healing embrace of divine abundance that surrounds you now and always. In the early 1900s, when Manhattan was a bustling center of American commerce and industry, and the newly wealthy industrial barons were building their limestone mansions along Fifth Avenue, there lived a remarkable woman named Florence Scovel Shinn, who would become one of the most influential spiritual teachers of the 20th century, though few people today know her name or understand the profound impact her teachings had on creating some of America's first generation of millionaires. Florence was born in 1860 into a well-educated Philadelphia family, where her father was a successful attorney and her mother was an accomplished artist who instilled in young Florence both a love of beauty and a deep respect for the invisible forces that shape human experience in ways that logical, rational thinking cannot fully comprehend or explain. After completing her education at the prestigious Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, where she studied illustration and painting, Florence moved to New York City in 1895 at the age of 35 to pursue her career as a commercial artist during the golden age of American magazine publishing, when illustrated periodicals were the primary source of entertainment and information for millions of middle-class families across the growing nation. She quickly established herself as a talented and reliable illustrator, working for publications like Harper's Bazaar Ladies' Home Journal and Good Housekeeping, creating charming drawings and paintings that captured the optimistic spirit of an America that was rapidly transforming from an agricultural society into the world's dominant industrial and economic power. But Florence's true calling began to emerge around 1910, when she was 50 years old and had already achieved considerable success in her artistic career, yet felt a growing sense that there was something much deeper and more meaningful she was meant to contribute to the world beyond creating beautiful pictures for magazine articles about fashion, cooking, and domestic life. During this period of inner searching and spiritual questioning, Florence began studying what were then called the New Thought teachings, which emphasized the power of mind over matter, and the idea that human beings could consciously cooperate with divine intelligence to create health, prosperity, and happiness through right thinking and spiritual alignment with universal laws that governed all manifestation in the physical realm. It was during a meditation session in her studio apartment overlooking Washington Square Park on a crisp October morning in 1912 that Florence experienced what she would later describe as her great revelation, when she suddenly understood with crystal clarity that human words are not merely sounds or symbols, but actual creative forces that shape reality according to the consciousness behind them, and that most people are unconsciously using their words to perpetuate limitation, suffering, and lack instead of claiming their divine birthright of abundance, health, and joy. This insight came to her not as an intellectual concept, but as a direct knowing that penetrated every cell of her being and immediately began transforming both her personal experience and her ability to help others discover their own unlimited potential. Florence began experimenting with what she called the science of right speaking, where instead of describing conditions as they appeared to be, she would speak only of conditions as they were meant to be in divine, perfect order. And she discovered that this practice of conscious decreeing had the power to literally rearrange external circumstances in ways that seemed miraculous to those who observed the transformations, but which Florence understood as the natural result of aligning human will with divine will through the correct use of thought, word, and feeling. She started sharing these discoveries with friends and acquaintances in her social circle, which included many successful business people, artists, writers, and society leaders who were attracted to Florence's combination of practical wisdom, spiritual insight, and genuine compassion for human suffering. Word of Florence's unusual abilities began to spread throughout Manhattan's artistic and business communities, and by 1915 she was being sought out by some of the city's most prominent citizens, including several men who would later become millionaires during the economic boom of the 1920s after applying the principles Florence taught them about using sleep time for abundance programming and prosperity manifestation. These early students paid Florence substantial fees for private consultations and group classes held in her beautifully decorated parlor, where she would explain the spiritual laws governing money, success, and happiness, while serving tea and small cakes from bone china inherited from her grandmother in Philadelphia. His name was Arthur Wellington Pemberton, and he was 61 years old when he first climbed the 3 flights of stairs to Florence's apartment on a rainy Thursday afternoon in November of 1916. Carrying with him the crushing weight of $723,000 in business debt that threatened to destroy not only his import company, but also his family's reputation in New York society, where financial failure was considered almost as shameful as moral. Corruption. Arthur had built Pemberton Imports into one of the city's most successful businesses, specializing in fine European textiles, silk scarves, luxury handbags, and decorative items that were sold to wealthy families and upscale department stores throughout the northeastern United States. But the war in Europe had disrupted his supply chains, and several major customers had canceled orders, leaving him unable to meet his obligations to creditors who were demanding immediate payment. The morning he decided to visit Florence, the temperature in Manhattan was 38 degrees, with a steady drizzle that made the city's streets slick and treacherous, and the gray November sky seemed to mirror Arthur's emotional state as he walked slowly through Washington Square Park, trying to summon the courage to admit to his wife Margaret that they might lose everything, including their elegant brownstone on East 72nd Street, where they had lived for 18 years and raised their 3 children who were now adults with families of their own, who looked up to Arthur as the patriarch who had always provided security and stability for the entire extended family. Arthur wore a heavy wool overcoat with a fur collar and carried a silver-headed walking stick that had belonged to his father. But beneath his dignified exterior, he felt like a frightened child who had made terrible mistakes and could not find a way to fix them without asking for help that his pride made almost impossible to accept. His stomach had been tight with anxiety for weeks, and he had been sleeping poorly, averaging only 3 or 4 hours per night as his mind raced through endless scenarios of financial ruin, social disgrace, and personal failure that seemed more real and inevitable with each passing day that brought him closer to the deadline, when his largest creditor would begin foreclosure proceedings against both his business and his personal assets. Florence answered the door herself, wearing a simple but elegant navy blue dress with pearl buttons and her graying hair arranged in the fashionable Gibson girl style that was popular among sophisticated women of her generation. And when she looked into Arthur's eyes with her remarkably clear blue gaze, he felt immediately that she could see not only his current crisis, but also his true potential for abundance and success that had been temporarily obscured by fear and doubt. She invited him into her parlor, which was decorated with beautiful paintings, antique furniture, Persian rugs, and fresh flowers that created an atmosphere of refined comfort and spiritual serenity that began to calm Arthur's nervous system before Florence even spoke a single word about his financial situation. After serving Earl Grey tea in delicate porcelain cups and listening carefully to Arthur's description of his business troubles without any trace of judgment or alarm, Florence explained that what he was experiencing was not actually a financial problem, but a consciousness problem, because money is simply energy that flows according to the beliefs and expectations held in the subconscious mind. And when someone believes deeply that they are struggling or failing, their external circumstances will always mirror that inner conviction, regardless of how hard they work or how many practical solutions they attempt to implement. She told Arthur that his debt was not a mistake or a punishment, but an opportunity to learn how to cooperate with spiritual laws that govern abundance, and that once he understood these principles, he would not only solve his current crisis, but also create greater prosperity than he had ever imagined possible. Florence taught Arthur that the hours just before sleep are the most powerful time for reprogramming the subconscious mind, because during this transition period, the logical, analytical, conscious mind begins to relax its control, while the deeper, creative subconscious mind becomes highly receptive to new information, suggestions, and beliefs that will then be processed and integrated throughout the entire sleep cycle. She explained that most people waste this precious opportunity by reviewing their problems, worrying about tomorrow, or falling asleep while reading newspapers or listening to radio programs that fill their minds with other people's fears, doubts, and limitations, instead of using this time to plant seeds of prosperity, abundance, and success in the fertile soil of their sleeping consciousness. The specific technique Florence taught Arthur was what she called the Millionaire's night routine, which consisted of 4 precisely timed steps that had to be performed in exact sequence for maximum effectiveness, and which she had developed through years of experimentation with her most successful students, who had used these methods to create extraordinary wealth during the period from 1910 to 1920, when many American fortunes were being built by men who understood how to harness both visible and invisible forces for material success. The routine was designed to be completed within 30 minutes and required no special equipment or complicated visualizations, but only a willingness to surrender logical skepticism and trust in spiritual principles that operate beyond the realm of ordinary human understanding. Arthur learned to begin each night by spending exactly 7 minutes in what Florence called grateful remembrance, where he would mentally review his day, focusing exclusively on everything that had gone well, every kindness he had received, every problem that had been solved, every person who had helped him, and every small indication that divine intelligence was working on his behalf, even during his current financial difficulties. This practice gradually trained his mind to notice and appreciate positive evidence that was always present, but which he had been overlooking while concentrating on his challenges and setbacks that seemed so much more dramatic and urgent than the quiet miracles happening around him constantly. The second step took exactly 8 minutes and involved what Florence termed abundance breathing, where Arthur would lie comfortably on his back and imagine that each inhalation was drawing golden light into his body from an infinite source of divine supply, while each exhalation was releasing all worry, fear, doubt, and limitation back to the universe, where these false beliefs would be dissolved and transformed into pure energy that could be used for his highest good. Florence instructed Arthur to make his breathing slow, deep, and rhythmic, while mentally repeating the phrase, "I breathe in abundance, I breathe out limitation," until the words became automatic, and his entire being was vibrating with the frequency of prosperity and success. The third step required exactly 10 minutes and was what Florence called the prosperity decree, where Arthur would silently repeat a series of powerful statements that Florence had received during her meditation experiences, and which she believed were actually divine formulas designed to reprogram the subconscious mind for wealth creation and financial freedom. These decrees included phrases like, "I am one with infinite abundance. Money flows to me easily and continuously. I am a magnet for financial opportunities. My income increases every month. I am worthy of unlimited prosperity, and divine intelligence guides all my financial decisions." And each phrase was to be repeated with complete faith and conviction, as though it were already absolutely true in the invisible realm of spirit, where all manifestation originates before appearing in physical form. The fourth and final step took exactly 5 minutes and was called Surrender into Trust, where Arthur would consciously release all need to control how, when, or where his abundance would manifest, and instead place his complete faith in divine timing and divine methods that might be completely different from anything his logical mind could imagine or plan. Florence taught him to end each session by stating aloud, "I surrender this financial challenge to divine intelligence and trust that my perfect prosperity is manifesting now in ways that will astound and delight me." Then to allow himself to drift into peaceful sleep while holding the feeling of gratitude for abundance that was already on its way to him through channels he could not yet see. Arthur practiced this Millionaire's Night routine faithfully every evening for exactly 42 consecutive nights. And during this period, he began to notice subtle but unmistakable changes in both his inner state and his external circumstances, as new ideas for solving his business problems began to flow into his mind during his morning meditation sessions, and unexpected opportunities began presenting themselves through casual conversations with friends, acquaintances, and even strangers he met. While walking through Central Park or riding the elevated train to his office in the financial district, on the morning of November the 30th, exactly 6 weeks after beginning the routine, Arthur received a telegram from his cousin Harold in Boston explaining that a group of investors had decided to purchase Arthur's entire European textile inventory for $215,000 more than its original cost, because the war had made these particular fabrics extremely rare and valuable in the American market. But the financial breakthrough was only the beginning, because within the next 3 months, Arthur's business expanded in ways he had never anticipated as new customers began seeking him out with large orders for specialty items, and his reputation for quality and reliability spread throughout the Northeast, creating demand that allowed him to raise his prices and improve his profit margins, while still providing exceptional value to clients who were willing to pay premium prices for the level of service and attention to detail that Arthur's company provided. By the spring of 1917, Arthur had not only paid off his entire debt, but had also accumulated a cash reserve of over $400,000 and was being invited to join investment groups that were purchasing Manhattan real estate and industrial companies that would make him a millionaire several times over during the prosperous decade that followed the end of the Great War. This principle that Florence discovered and taught to Arthur and dozens of other successful students is based on what she called the law of subconscious manifestation, which states that whatever beliefs, programs, and expectations are consistently impressed upon the sleeping mind will automatically be expressed in the waking life through thoughts, words, actions, and circumstances that align with these inner patterns, whether they are positive or negative, constructive or destructive, abundant or limited. Florence understood that most people are unconsciously programming their subconscious minds for continued struggle and limitation by falling asleep while thinking about their problems, fears, and disappointments, instead of using this precious time to install new beliefs about prosperity, success, and unlimited possibility. The reason this technique is so powerful during sleep is that the subconscious mind operates most freely when the conscious mind is quiet and relaxed, and during the deepest phases of sleep, the brain releases chemicals and hormones that facilitate memory consolidation, belief integration, and neural pathway reconstruction that literally rewires the nervous system to support new patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Florence taught that the last 30 minutes before sleep and the first 30 minutes after waking are the two most important periods of every 24-hour cycle, because during these transition times, the subconscious mind is most accessible to conscious direction and programming. Florence's students learned that consistency is absolutely essential for this method to work, because the subconscious mind responds to repetition and emotional intensity rather than to logical arguments or wishful thinking, and that it typically takes between 21 and 42 days of faithful practice before new beliefs become sufficiently established to begin manifesting as changed circumstances in the external world. She also emphasized that the practitioner must maintain absolute faith in the process, even when external conditions appear to be getting worse rather than better, because what she called the appearance of delay is actually the universe rearranging circumstances behind the scenes to create space for the manifestation that is already completed in the spiritual realm. As you continue listening to these teachings tonight, and as your own subconscious mind begins to absorb these same principles that created documented millionaires over 100 years ago, remember that the greatest transformations often begin with the smallest shifts in consciousness, and that your willingness to trust in something greater than your current limited perception of what is possible is already opening doorways to abundance that have been waiting for this exact moment to reveal themselves in your life. The foundation has been laid, and now we will explore the specific components of the Millionaire's routine that you can begin using tonight to program your sleeping mind for unprecedented prosperity and financial freedom. What Florence Scovel Shinn discovered during her years of working with wealthy Manhattan clients was that words are not simply sounds we make with our mouths or symbols we write on paper, but are actually vibrational codes that carry specific frequencies capable of rearranging the quantum field of infinite possibility that surrounds every human being at every moment, whether they are aware of this invisible reality or not. She understood that when we speak or think certain words, while in particular states of consciousness, we are literally broadcasting instructions to the universe about what we want to experience, and that these instructions are received, processed, and responded to with mathematical precision, according to spiritual laws that operate just as consistently as the laws of physics, chemistry, or biology that govern the material world. Florence taught her students that most people are unconsciously using their words to perpetuate limitation, poverty, and struggle because they have been conditioned by society, family, and their own past experiences to describe reality as it appears to be rather than declaring reality as it is meant to be in divine perfect order, where abundance is the natural state and scarcity is only a temporary illusion created by incorrect thinking and false beliefs about the nature of supply. She explained that when someone says, "I can't afford it," or "money is tight," or "I'm broke," They are not simply describing their current financial situation, but are actually sending vibrational commands to their subconscious mind and to the universal intelligence that manages all manifestation to create more experiences that match these declarations of limitation. The profound insight that Florence received during her spiritual awakening was that the universe responds to the vibrational frequency behind our words rather than to the literal meaning of the words themselves, and that when we speak from a consciousness of lack, fear, or desperation, we are broadcasting those same frequencies even when we are trying to affirm abundance, prosperity, or success. This is why traditional positive affirmations often fail to produce lasting results, because people are unconsciously contradicting their spoken declarations with deeper beliefs about their worthiness limitations or the difficulty of creating wealth, and the subconscious mind always responds to the strongest emotional vibration rather than to the most logical or well-intentioned conscious statement. Florence developed what she called the science of vibrational speaking, where students learn to align their words, their emotions, and their deepest beliefs into a unified field of consciousness that could then be directed toward specific outcomes through the precise use of what she termed prosperity decrees, which were carefully crafted statements designed to bypass mental resistance and plant new beliefs directly into the fertile soil of the subconscious mind during the receptive state that occurs naturally just before sleep, when the logical, analytical conscious mind begins to relax its guard and allow new information to enter the deeper levels of awareness. These prosperity decrees were different from ordinary affirmations because they were spoken with the authority of someone who already possessed what they were claiming, rather than with the hopeful energy of someone who was trying to attract something they currently lacked. And Florence taught her students to practice shifting their consciousness from wanting abundance to knowing abundance, from seeking prosperity to being prosperity, from hoping for wealth to embodying wealth at the deepest level of their identity, where true transformation occurs beyond the reach of doubt, fear, or external circumstances. Her name was Marilyn Catherine Brookfield, and she was 58 years old when she attended one of Florence's exclusive evening seminars held in the elegant drawing room of a Fifth Avenue mansion, where Manhattan's social and business elite gathered monthly to study spiritual principles for success and prosperity during the winter of 1918, when the war in Europe was finally ending, and America was entering a period of unprecedented economic expansion. Marilyn lived with her elderly mother, Emma, in a modest but comfortable brownstone on East 42nd Street that they had inherited from Marilyn's father, who had been a successful physician before his death from influenza 3 years earlier, leaving his widow and unmarried daughter with enough money to maintain their lifestyle for perhaps 2 more years if they were very careful with their expenses and avoided any major unexpected costs. Marilyn worked as a private secretary for Jonathan Hartwell Bradford, the owner of Bradford and Associates Investment Banking, who paid her a salary of $18 per week, which was considered quite generous for a woman in 1918, but which barely covered the household expenses for 2 people, including the mortgage payment of $47 monthly, the coal bill during winter months, the cost of food, clothing, medical care, and the small donations Marilyn felt obligated to make to their Episcopal church, where her family had been members for over 30 years. She had never married, partly because she had been caring for her aging parents since her early 20s, and partly because the few men who had shown romantic interest in her had been intimidated by her intelligence, education, and independent spirit, which were unusual qualities for women of her generation who were expected to be charming, decorative, and dependent rather than capable, thoughtful, and self-sufficient. The evening Marilyn attended Florence's seminar, the temperature in Manhattan was 26 degrees, with light snow falling steadily, creating a magical winter wonderland outside the tall windows of the mansion's drawing room, where 35 carefully selected guests sat in comfortable chairs arranged in a semicircle around Florence, who spoke in her clear, melodious voice about the power of words to transform both consciousness and circumstances through the correct application of spiritual principles that most people never learned because these teachings were considered too advanced for the general public. Marilyn wore her finest dark blue wool dress with pearl buttons and a small cameo brooch that had belonged to her grandmother, and she felt both nervous and excited to be included in such distinguished company, where she recognized several prominent businessmen, society ladies, and cultural leaders whose names appeared regularly in the society pages of the New York Herald and the New York Times. Florence began that evening's presentation by explaining that financial limitation is never a money problem, but always a consciousness problem, because money is simply energy that flows according to the beliefs and expectations held in the subconscious mind, and that when someone truly understands this principle, they can begin to work with the invisible forces that create all abundance rather than struggling against these forces through willpower effort or manipulation. She demonstrated this concept by sharing the story of one of her students who had been facing bankruptcy until he learned to use what Florence called vibrational wealth codes, which were specific words and phrases spoken with precise intention and feeling that had the power to literally reprogram the subconscious mind for prosperity during the receptive state that occurs naturally during sleep. The vibrational wealth code that Florence taught that evening was a carefully constructed sequence of 7 statements that incorporated both ancient spiritual wisdom and modern understanding of how the subconscious mind processes and integrates new information during the dream state, when the logical conscious mind is inactive and unable to interfere with the installation of new beliefs about abundance, worthiness, and financial flow. These 7 statements were to be repeated in exact order for exactly 21 repetitions each, while the practitioner maintained the feeling of grateful appreciation for abundance that was already manifesting in the invisible realm of spirit, where all creation originates before appearing in physical form. The first wealth code was, "I am one with the infinite source of all supply," which Florence explained was designed to establish conscious connection with what she called the universal storehouse, where all abundance already exists in perfect completion, waiting only for the right vibrational key to unlock its flow into individual experience. The second code was, "Money flows to me easily and continuously from multiple sources," which programmed the subconscious mind to expect and recognize opportunities for income that might appear in unexpected ways, rather than limiting prosperity to only one source, such as employment or investment returns. The third wealth code was, "I am a magnet for financial opportunities and I recognize them instantly," which trained the subconscious mind to notice and act upon possibilities for increasing income that other people might overlook or dismiss as unimportant. The fourth code was, "My income increases every month in wonderful ways," which established an expectation of continuous growth rather than accepting financial stagnation as normal or inevitable. The fifth wealth code was, "I spend money wisely and I always have more than enough," which created a consciousness of abundance rather than scarcity, even when making purchases or paying expenses. The sixth wealth code was, "I deserve unlimited prosperity because I am a divine being expressing infinite potential," which addressed the deep-seated unworthiness beliefs that Florence had discovered were the primary obstacle preventing most people from receiving the abundance that was their spiritual birthright. The seventh and final wealth code was, "I am grateful for the wealth that is manifesting in my life now," which Florence explained must be stated with the same conviction and appreciation that someone would feel if they were actually observing their bank account growing larger or receiving unexpected money, because gratitude for future good was one of the most powerful forces for attracting that good into present experience. Marilyn listened to these wealth codes with growing excitement because something deep inside her recognized them as truth, even though her logical mind had been trained to believe that financial struggle was normal for unmarried women without wealthy families or husbands to support them, and that hoping for anything more than basic survival was unrealistic and possibly even selfish, given the suffering of so many people during the difficult war years when everyone was expected to sacrifice personal desires for the greater good of the nation. But Florence's words awakened something in Marilyn's consciousness that felt ancient and familiar, as though she was remembering something she had always known but had forgotten under the weight of social conditioning and family expectations. That night, when Marilyn returned to her brownstone at 11:45 after taking the streetcar through the snowy Manhattan streets, she decided to experiment with the vibrational wealth codes that Florence had taught, even though part of her mind whispered that this was probably foolish superstition that could never produce real results in the practical world of rent payments, grocery bills, and medical expenses that required actual money, not positive thinking or spiritual platitudes. She prepared for bed in her usual manner, washing her face, brushing her teeth, and putting on her cotton nightgown. But instead of immediately falling asleep as she normally did, she lay quietly in the darkness and began to repeat the 7 wealth codes exactly as Florence had instructed. "I am one with the infinite source of all supply," Marilyn whispered into the silence of her bedroom, and as she repeated these words 21 times, she tried to feel the truth of this statement rather than simply reciting it mechanically, like a prayer learned in childhood that had lost its power through repetition without understanding. "Money flows to me easily and continuously from multiple sources," she continued, and with each repetition, she attempted to imagine this abundance flowing toward her like a river of golden light that could never be depleted or interrupted because it originated from an infinite source that existed beyond the world of limitation and scarcity. As Marilyn progressed through all 7 wealth codes, repeating each one 21 times while maintaining the feeling of grateful appreciation for abundance that was already manifesting in the invisible realm, she began to experience a subtle but unmistakable shift in her consciousness, where instead of feeling worried about her financial future, she felt increasingly confident that everything was working out for her highest good in ways that her logical mind could not yet comprehend or predict. The entire process took approximately 30 minutes, and by the time she completed the final repetition of, "I am grateful for the wealth that is manifesting in my life now," Marilyn felt so peaceful and optimistic that she drifted into the deepest, most restorative sleep she had experienced in months. The next morning, Marilyn awoke at her usual time of 6:30, but instead of immediately beginning to worry about the day's responsibilities and expenses, as had become her habit since her father's death, she found herself feeling unusually energetic and positive, as though something fundamental had shifted during the night, in ways that her conscious mind could not explain, but that her entire being could feel. During her morning routine of preparing breakfast for herself and her mother, Marilyn noticed that she was humming quietly and moving with more grace and confidence than usual. And when her mother commented that she seemed particularly cheerful, Marilyn realized that the vibrational wealth codes had indeed created some kind of transformation in her consciousness, even after just one night of practice. At exactly 10:25 that morning, while Marilyn was organizing filing cabinets in Mr. Bradford's private office, she overheard him discussing with his business partner the need to find someone with excellent organizational skills and absolute discretion to manage a new investment fund that was being created for wealthy clients who wanted to participate in the post-war economic recovery without having to monitor their investments personally. The position would require someone who could work independently, analyze financial reports, prepare summaries for clients, and coordinate with banks and investment firms throughout the northeastern region. And Mr. Bradford was willing to pay a salary of $35 per week, which was nearly double what Marilyn was currently earning. Without fully understanding why she felt so confident, Marilyn knocked softly on Mr. Bradford's office door, and when he invited her to enter, she calmly explained that she had overheard his conversation and believed she was perfectly qualified for the position he was describing because she had been managing her family's finances since her father's illness, had begun 4 years earlier, and had successfully maintained their household budget while also handling her father's medical bills and business affairs during the final months of his life. She presented Mr. Bradford with a detailed summary of her qualifications, including her knowledge of banking procedures, investment terminology, and financial record-keeping systems that she had learned through necessity and personal study. Mr. Bradford was initially surprised that his quiet secretary possessed such extensive financial knowledge and experience. But after asking her several questions about investment strategies and banking regulations, he realized that Marilyn's combination of practical experience, analytical skills, and natural discretion made her an ideal candidate for the position he needed to fill. He offered her the job immediately, with the understanding that she would begin her new responsibilities the following Monday, and that her increased salary would allow her to hire an assistant to handle the routine secretarial duties that had previously consumed most of her time and energy. But the transformation in Marilyn's financial circumstances was only beginning, because during her second week in the new position, she received a letter from the estate attorney handling her late father's affairs, explaining that a small investment her father had made years earlier in a copper mining company had finally paid dividends, and that Marilyn's inheritance would include an additional $4,267 that had not been accounted for in the original estate settlement. This unexpected inheritance was exactly the amount Marilyn needed to make necessary repairs to the brownstone and to create an emergency fund that would provide security for both her mother and herself, regardless of future economic uncertainties. Over the following 6 months, as Marilyn continued to practice the vibrational wealth codes every night before sleep, her income continued to increase through bonuses, commissions, and investment opportunities that seemed to appear synchronistically in her life, as though the universe was conspiring to demonstrate the truth of Florence's teachings about the power of words to create vibrational frequencies that attract corresponding experiences. Marilyn's total income for 1919 was over $2,600, which represented a 300% increase from the previous year, and allowed her to begin investing in stocks and bonds that would continue to grow throughout the prosperous decade of the 1920s. The principle that Florence taught through these vibrational wealth codes is based on what modern quantum physics would later discover about the relationship between consciousness and reality, where the observer actually influences and participates in creating what is observed rather than simply witnessing events that are happening independently of their awareness or participation. Florence understood intuitively that words carry frequency, and that frequency creates resonance, and that resonance attracts experiences that match the vibrational signature of whatever is being consistently held in consciousness, especially during the receptive state that occurs naturally during sleep, when the subconscious mind is most accessible to new programming. The reason these wealth codes are so effective when practiced during the pre-sleep period is that the subconscious mind operates according to different principles than the conscious mind and responds more readily to repetition rhythm and emotional conviction than to logical arguments or intellectual understanding. When vibrational wealth codes are repeated with feeling and conviction during the transition into sleep, they bypass the mental resistance that often blocks new beliefs from taking root in consciousness and instead plant themselves directly in the fertile soil of the subconscious, where they can grow and manifest as changed circumstances in the external world. Florence also discovered that timing is crucial for this technique to work effectively because the brain waves naturally slow down during the pre-sleep period, creating what neuroscientists now call the alpha and theta states, where the subconscious mind becomes highly suggestible and receptive to new information that will then be processed, integrated, and acted upon during the various stages of sleep, when the conscious mind is inactive and unable to interfere with the installation of new beliefs about abundance, prosperity, and financial flow. As you continue to rest and listen tonight, your own subconscious mind is already beginning to absorb these same vibrational wealth codes that transformed Marilyn's financial circumstances and the circumstances of countless other students who learned to use their words as tools for creating abundance rather than perpetuating limitation and scarcity through unconscious declarations of lack, struggle, and financial difficulty. The power to transform your financial reality through vibrational speaking is awakening within you now and will continue to grow stronger each time you practice these ancient techniques that Florence discovered and refined over 100 years ago. The most profound discovery that Florence Scovel Shinn made during her decades of working with students who wanted to create lasting wealth and financial freedom was that true prosperity is never achieved through external action alone, but must first be established at the deepest level of personal identity, where someone literally becomes a wealthy person in consciousness before they can become a wealthy person in physical reality. She understood that most people approach money manifestation backwards, by trying to get abundance while still thinking and feeling like someone who is poor, limited, or unworthy of receiving the infinite supply that is every human being's divine birthright according to spiritual laws that operate beyond the realm of economic conditions, social circumstances, or family background. Florence taught that identity is not fixed or permanent, but is actually a flexible collection of beliefs, patterns, and habitual ways of thinking that have been absorbed from family, society, and personal experience, but which can be consciously transformed through spiritual practices that work directly with the subconscious mind during the receptive state that occurs naturally during sleep. When the logical, analytical conscious mind relaxes its control and allows new information to enter the deeper levels of awareness where fundamental change actually takes place. She explained that trying to create wealth while maintaining the identity of a poor person is like trying to fill a bucket that has holes in the bottom, because the subconscious mind will always find ways to sabotage or eliminate any abundance that conflicts with the person's core beliefs about who they are and what they deserve. The revolutionary technique that Florence developed for transforming financial identity was based on her understanding that the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between real experiences and vividly imagined experiences, especially during the dream state, when the brain naturally processes experiences through symbols, emotions, and sensory impressions, rather than through logical analysis or rational evaluation. She discovered that when students learned to consciously assume the identity of a prosperous person during the 30 minutes before sleep, their subconscious mind would begin to reorganize their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors to align with this new identity, and within a relatively short period of time, their external circumstances would shift to match their internal transformation. This process of identity transformation during sleep was not visualization in the traditional sense of trying to picture specific outcomes or material possessions, but rather involved what Florence called identity immersion, where the student would spend the pre-sleep period actually experiencing themselves as someone who naturally and easily attracts abundance through their thoughts, words, actions, and presence in the world. Instead of trying to get money, they would practice being someone for whom money flows naturally and continuously. And instead of hoping for prosperity, they would cultivate the inner knowing that they are prosperity, expressing itself through human form. Florence explained that wealthy people think differently, feel differently, speak differently, and carry themselves differently than people who struggle with money, and that these differences are not the result of having money, but are actually the cause of having money, because consciousness always creates circumstances rather than the reverse, even though most people believe that changing their circumstances will change their consciousness. She taught her students to study the consciousness of naturally abundant people, and then to practice embodying that same consciousness during their sleep preparation time until it became their authentic way of being, rather than something they were pretending or trying to achieve. His name was Edward Harrison Montgomery, and he was 63 years old when he first learned about Florence's identity transformation technique during a private consultation in her Manhattan apartment on a cold February afternoon in 1920, when the city was still recovering from the economic disruption caused by the Great War, and many businesses, including Edward's small accounting firm, were struggling to adapt to the rapidly changing financial landscape of post-war America. Edward had been an accountant for 37 years, serving small businesses and middle-class families in Brooklyn with meticulous attention to detail and absolute honesty. But his conservative approach to money management had never allowed him to accumulate significant wealth for himself, despite his expertise in helping others manage their finances effectively. Edward lived alone in a modest apartment above a bakery on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn Heights, where he had resided for the past 15 years since his wife Catherine had died from tuberculosis, leaving him with no children and few close relationships outside of his work, which had become both his profession and his primary source of personal identity. He earned approximately $2,400 annually, which was sufficient to cover his basic expenses, including rent, food, clothing, and occasional entertainment, but which left very little opportunity for savings, investment, or the kind of financial security that would allow him to retire comfortably when his aging body could no longer handle the long hours of detailed bookkeeping that his clients required. The morning Edward decided to consult Florence about his financial situation, the temperature in New York was 18 degrees, with a biting wind coming off the East River that made the short walk from the subway station to her apartment building feel like a journey through an Arctic wasteland that reflected his inner sense of bleakness about his financial future. Edward wore his warmest wool coat and leather gloves, but still felt chilled to the bone as he climbed the familiar stairs to Florence's third-floor apartment, where he hoped to find some practical guidance for improving his economic circumstances without compromising the ethical standards that had guided his professional life since he had first learned bookkeeping as a young man working for his uncle's wholesale grocery business. Edward had heard about Florence through his client Mrs. Adelaide Thornton, who had dramatically improved her family's financial situation after attending several of Florence's evening seminars, and who insisted that Florence's teachings were not mere positive thinking, but were based on precise spiritual principles that produced measurable results when applied with consistency and faith. Mrs. Thornton had been facing foreclosure on her Prospect Heights brownstone until she learned what she called Florence's secrets for attracting money during sleep, and within 6 months had not only saved her house, but had also started a successful catering business that was earning more money than her late husband's pension had ever provided. When Florence opened her apartment door that afternoon, Edward was immediately struck by her serene confidence and the way her clear blue eyes seemed to look directly into his soul with complete acceptance and understanding of both his current struggles and his unlimited potential for transformation. She invited him into her beautifully decorated parlor, where afternoon sunlight streamed through tall windows, creating patterns of gold and shadow on the Persian rug, while the warmth from the coal fireplace gradually thawed both his frozen limbs and his discouraged heart as Florence served hot tea and small cakes, while listening to his description of his financial concerns with the kind of compassionate attention that Edward had not received from another human being since his beloved Catherine had died. After Edward explained that he felt trapped in a cycle of financial mediocrity despite his knowledge and hard work, Florence gently told him that his problem was not lack of skill, opportunity, or effort, but rather what she called identity limitation, because he had unconsciously adopted the persona of someone who serves wealthy people rather than someone who is wealthy himself, and that this service identity, while honorable and necessary, was preventing him from claiming his own prosperity because the subconscious mind was programmed to maintain the familiar role of helper rather than allowing him to step into the unfamiliar role of someone who receives abundance easily and naturally. Florence explained that Edward's identity as a careful, conservative, financially responsible but ultimately limited person was so deeply ingrained in his subconscious mind that any attempt to create greater wealth would be unconsciously sabotaged by his deeper programming unless he first learned to transform his fundamental sense of who he was in relation to money, prosperity, and his own worthiness to receive unlimited abundance. She told him that this transformation could not be accomplished through willpower, positive thinking, or even hard work, but required a complete reprogramming of his subconscious identity patterns during the receptive state that occurs naturally during the transition into sleep, when the conscious mind releases control and allows new beliefs to take root in the fertile soil of the deeper mind. The specific technique Florence taught Edward was called financial identity immersion and involved spending exactly 25 minutes each night before sleep consciously experiencing himself as someone who was naturally and effortlessly wealthy, not by visualizing possessions or bank account balances, but by actually feeling, thinking, and being someone for whom abundance was as natural as breathing. Edward learned to begin this practice by lying comfortably in his bed and taking several deep breaths, while consciously releasing all thoughts about his current financial limitations, and instead focusing his attention on embodying the consciousness of unlimited prosperity. The first step of financial identity immersion was what Florence called wealthy thinking practice, where Edward would spend 5 minutes allowing his mind to think the same kinds of thoughts that naturally wealthy people think throughout their daily lives, such as considering investment opportunities, planning charitable contributions, thinking about how to create value for others, imagining ways to expand successful ventures, and feeling grateful for the continuous flow of abundance that supports both personal enjoyment and service to others. Florence emphasized that these were not forced affirmations, but rather genuine thoughts that emerged naturally when someone's consciousness was aligned with prosperity rather than scarcity. The second step took 7 minutes and was called abundant feeling practice, where Edward learned to cultivate the emotional states that naturally wealthy people experience, such as confidence in their ability to create value security about their financial future, excitement about new opportunities, gratitude for their current blessings, and generosity toward others who were still learning to attract abundance. Florence taught Edward that emotions are actually vibrational frequencies that attract corresponding experiences, and that practicing abundant feelings during the pre-sleep period would gradually reprogram his subconscious emotional patterns to match those of someone who naturally attracts wealth. The third step required 8 minutes and was called prosperous action practice, where Edward would mentally rehearse behaving the way naturally wealthy people behave in their daily interactions, such as speaking with confidence, making decisions quickly, investing in quality rather than settling for cheap alternatives, treating service providers with respect and generosity, maintaining excellent posture and grooming, and carrying themselves with the quiet dignity that comes from knowing they have value to offer the world. Florence explained that the subconscious mind learns through repetition, and that practicing prosperous behaviors mentally would gradually influence Edward's actual behavior until wealthy actions became as natural and automatic as his current limited behaviors. The fourth and final step took exactly 5 minutes and was called identity declaration practice, where Edward would state aloud a series of present tense identity statements that Florence had carefully crafted to bypass mental resistance and install new beliefs directly into the subconscious mind. These declarations included, "I am naturally wealthy. Money flows to me easily. I am worthy of unlimited abundance. I create value wherever I go. People are happy to pay me well. I attract profitable opportunities. I am generous with my wealth, and abundance is my natural state." And each statement was to be repeated with the conviction of someone who was describing obvious facts about their identity, rather than someone who was trying to convince themselves of something they hoped might become true. Edward practiced financial identity immersion faithfully every night for exactly 49 consecutive nights, and during this period, he began to notice profound changes in both his inner experience and his external circumstances as his confidence increased. His professional skills seemed to sharpen, his client relationships became more profitable, and new opportunities began appearing in his life through synchronicities that seemed almost magical, but which Florence assured him were simply the natural result of aligning his consciousness with the frequency of abundance that attracts corresponding experiences. On the morning of March the 28th, exactly 7 weeks after beginning the identity transformation practice, Edward received a visit from Mr. Charles Whitman Harrison, who owned Harrison Manufacturing Company, and who explained that his business had grown so rapidly during the post-war economic expansion that he needed someone with Edward's reputation for integrity and attention to detail to serve as his personal financial manager, with responsibilities that would include overseeing company investments, managing cash flow, coordinating with banks and investment firms, and preparing financial reports for board meetings. The position offered a salary of $6,000 annually, plus a percentage of company profits that could potentially double Edward's total income within the first year. But the transformation in Edward's financial circumstances was only the beginning, because his new role at Harrison Manufacturing exposed him to investment opportunities that had previously been unavailable to someone in his economic position, and his growing confidence and expanded thinking allowed him to recognize and act upon these opportunities in ways that gradually built substantial personal wealth beyond his increased salary. Within 3 years, Edward had accumulated enough capital to purchase a small apartment building in Brooklyn Heights that generated rental income while also appreciating in value, and by 1925, he was earning more from his investments than from his salary, and was being consulted by other wealthy individuals who recognized his unique combination of technical expertise and intuitive understanding of financial markets. The principle behind financial identity immersion is that the subconscious mind operates as a powerful goal-seeking mechanism that constantly works to create external circumstances that match our deepest beliefs about who we are and what we deserve. And when these core identity beliefs are transformed through consistent practice during the receptive pre-sleep period, the subconscious mind automatically begins to guide our thoughts, words, and actions toward experiences that align with the new. Prosperous identity rather than perpetuating the old, limited identity that had been keeping us trapped in financial mediocrity, regardless of our conscious desires for greater abundance. Florence discovered that most people fail to create lasting wealth because they focus on changing their circumstances rather than changing their identity, and that any money that comes to someone who still thinks and feels like a poor person will inevitably be lost through poor decisions, unconscious sabotage, or unexpected expenses that restore their familiar financial comfort zone. She taught that true prosperity must be established first in consciousness through the kind of deep identity work that can only be accomplished during sleep, when the conscious mind's resistance is minimized and the subconscious mind is most receptive to fundamental transformation. The reason this technique is so effective during the pre-sleep period is that identity formation and identity change both occur primarily at the subconscious level through processes that are largely outside conscious awareness and control, and the brain's natural transition into sleep creates optimal conditions for installing new identity patterns that will then influence all future thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways that support the manifestation of abundance rather than perpetuating limitation and struggle. As you rest tonight and listen to these teachings, your own financial identity immersion is already beginning as your subconscious mind absorbs these principles and starts to reorganize your deepest beliefs about who you are in relation to money, prosperity, and your divine right to receive unlimited abundance through whatever channels will serve your highest good and the highest good of all those whose lives you touch. One of the most important discoveries Florence Scovel Shinn made during her years of teaching prosperity principles to Manhattan's elite was that every person carries within their subconscious mind a complex network of resistance patterns that automatically block sabotage or deflect abundance even when they consciously desire wealth and are taking all the right practical actions to improve their financial circumstances. These resistance patterns, which Florence called the inner barriers to prosperity, operate below the level of conscious awareness and often stem from childhood experiences, family conditioning, religious teachings, and social programming that convince the person at a very deep level that they are not worthy of wealth, that money is evil or corrupting, that wealthy people are selfish or greedy, or that financial struggle is somehow noble, spiritual, or necessary for character development. Florence understood that these subconscious resistance patterns are far more powerful than conscious desires and intentions, because they operate 24 hours a day, influencing every thought, emotion, and decision the person makes about money, work, investment, spending, and receiving. While the conscious mind is only active during waking hours and often lacks the persistence and emotional intensity needed to override deeply embedded beliefs that were installed during childhood, when the critical, analytical mind had not yet developed the ability to question or resist incoming information about how the world works and what kinds of experiences are possible or appropriate. The revolutionary insight that Florence received during her own spiritual development was that these inner barriers to prosperity cannot be dissolved through willpower, positive thinking, or conscious effort alone, but must be gently released during the receptive state that occurs naturally during sleep, when the logical, defensive, conscious mind relaxes its guard and allows the deeper healing intelligence of the subconscious mind to reorganize limiting beliefs and emotional patterns that have been preventing the natural flow of abundance that is every human being's birthright, according to spiritual laws that operate independently of economic conditions, social circumstances, or family background. Florence developed a precise technique for identifying and releasing financial resistance patterns during the pre-sleep period, when the subconscious mind is most accessible to gentle transformation, without the interference of mental analysis, doubt, or fear that often accompanies conscious attempts to change deeply rooted beliefs about money, self-worth, and personal deserving. She discovered that when resistance patterns are approached with compassion, understanding, and spiritual authority during the transition into sleep, they often dissolve spontaneously, like ice melting in warm sunlight, rather than requiring the kind of prolonged struggle that many people associate with personal change and spiritual growth. The specific method Florence taught involved what she called resistance recognition and release, which began with consciously acknowledging the presence of inner barriers without judgment, criticism, or attempts to force them to disappear, but rather with the same gentle acceptance that a wise gardener might show toward weeds in a garden, knowing that they can be removed without violence, and that the soil beneath them is naturally fertile and ready to support beautiful flowers once the unwanted. Growth has been cleared away through patient, loving attention to the healing process. Her name was Janice Eloise Patterson, and she was 56 years old when she first learned about Florence's resistance release technique during a difficult period in 1921, when her husband George had been unemployed for 8 months after the textile mill, where he had worked for 23 years, had closed permanently due to foreign competition that was flooding American markets with cheaper goods manufactured in countries where workers received far lower wages and had fewer legal protections. Janice and George lived in a small rented house in Yonkers, New York, with their 2 teenage children, Robert, who was 17 and planning to attend Columbia University if they could somehow afford the tuition, and Mary Catherine, who was 15 and dreaming of becoming a teacher like her favorite aunt who had inspired her love of literature and learning. The family's financial situation had become increasingly desperate as George's unemployment benefits were scheduled to end in 6 weeks, and despite his daily efforts to find new employment, the economic recession that followed the end of the Great War had created intense competition for every available job, with experienced men willing to work for wages that would have been considered insulting just 2 years earlier, when the wartime economy had created labor shortages and rising wages for industrial workers throughout the northeastern United States. Janice had taken in sewing and laundry from neighbors to earn a few extra dollars each week, but her income was barely sufficient to buy food and coal for heating, while the rent payment of $38 monthly loomed over them like a dark cloud that threatened to destroy everything they had worked to build during their 24 years of marriage. The temperature in Yonkers that November evening was 31 degrees, with a cold rain falling steadily against the windows of their small living room, where Janice sat by lamplight mending clothes for Mrs. Henderson, who lived 3 houses down the street and paid her 50 cents for each garment that required significant repair or alteration. Janice wore a wool shawl over her everyday dress because they were conserving coal to make their supply last through the winter months, and her fingers were slightly stiff from the cold as she worked carefully to invisible mend a tear in Mrs. Henderson's best Sunday coat that had been damaged when it caught on a sharp piece of metal while she was getting out of her automobile. Janice had always prided herself on being strong, practical, and resourceful, but the mounting financial pressure was beginning to affect her sleep, her appetite, and her ability to maintain the cheerful, optimistic attitude that had helped her family through previous difficulties, including George's bout with pneumonia 3 years earlier, and the influenza epidemic that had claimed several neighbors and left many local families struggling with medical bills and lost income. She found herself lying awake at night, worrying about what would happen if George could not find work before his unemployment benefits ended, and calculating over and over again how long their small savings would last if they eliminated every possible expense except absolute necessities for survival. That evening, while walking home from delivering finished sewing to 3 different customers, Janice stopped at the public library to return books and noticed a small handwritten sign posted on the community bulletin board advertising a free lecture by someone named Florence Scovel Shinn, who would be speaking about spiritual solutions to financial problems at the Yonkers Community Center the following Tuesday evening at 7:30. Despite her Methodist upbringing, which had taught her to be somewhat suspicious of anything that claimed to offer easy answers to serious problems, Janice felt drawn to attend this lecture because she had reached a point of desperation where conventional solutions seemed inadequate, and perhaps spiritual wisdom might offer insights that practical thinking had failed to provide. The community center was a modest brick building built in 1905 that served as a meeting place for various local organizations, and that evening, approximately 60 people had gathered in the main hall to hear Florence speak about what she called the spiritual laws of prosperity that operate beyond the world of economic conditions and employment statistics. Janice sat in the 3rd row wearing her best dark blue dress with the pearl buttons that had been a wedding gift from her mother-in-law, and despite her nervousness about attending something that might conflict with her traditional religious beliefs, She felt immediately comfortable in Florence's presence, which radiated a combination of wisdom, compassion, and quiet authority that reminded Janice of her beloved grandmother, who had possessed an unshakable faith in divine providence. Florence began her presentation by explaining that financial difficulties are never caused by external circumstances alone, but are always the result of internal resistance patterns that block the natural flow of abundance that is every human being's divine inheritance. And that these resistance patterns usually develop during childhood when we absorb limiting beliefs about money from family members, teachers, religious leaders, and society in general, without having the mental capacity to question or evaluate these beliefs before they become deeply embedded in our subconscious programming, where they continue to influence our adult experiences, whether we are conscious of them or not. The first resistance pattern Florence identified was what she called unworthiness programming, which causes people to unconsciously believe that they do not deserve financial abundance because they are fundamentally flawed, inadequate, or less valuable than others who seem to attract wealth more easily. Florence explained that this programming often begins in early childhood, when parents, teachers, or other authority figures use shame, criticism, or comparison to control children's behavior, without realizing that these well-intentioned disciplinary methods can create lasting beliefs about personal worth that later interfere with the ability to receive prosperity, love, success, or any other form of good that requires healthy self-esteem and genuine self-acceptance. The second resistance pattern was called scarcity programming, which convinces people that there is not enough abundance to go around, and that if they receive more money, someone else must receive less, creating guilt about personal prosperity and fear about taking resources that might be needed by others. Florence taught that this programming contradicts spiritual truth, which reveals that abundance is infinite, and that individual prosperity actually increases the total amount of wealth circulating in the community, rather than diminishing what is available for others to receive through their own alignment with prosperity consciousness. The third resistance pattern, Florence termed spiritual confusion programming, which creates conflict between material desires and spiritual aspirations, by suggesting that money is somehow unspiritual evil or corrupting, and that truly spiritual people should be content with poverty or financial struggle as evidence of their dedication to higher values. Florence explained that this programming misunderstands the true nature of both spirituality and money, and that authentic spiritual development actually includes learning to manifest abundance as an expression of divine creativity, rather than rejecting material prosperity as incompatible with spiritual growth. The fourth resistance pattern was called family loyalty programming, which creates unconscious beliefs that becoming wealthy would betray family heritage values or identity, especially for people whose families have experienced generations of financial struggle and who may feel that achieving prosperity would somehow dishonor their ancestors or separate them from family members who continue to struggle with money. Florence taught that true family loyalty includes breaking negative patterns that have limited previous generations and creating new possibilities for abundance that can benefit the entire family lineage. The fifth resistance pattern, Florence identified as fear programming, which manifests as anxiety about the responsibilities, changes, and potential problems that might accompany increased wealth, such as fear of being taken advantage of, fear of making wrong investment decisions, fear of becoming materialistic or selfish, fear of losing friends who might resent financial success, or fear of failing to maintain prosperity once it has been achieved. Florence explained that these fears often prevent people from fully opening to receive abundance because the subconscious mind prioritizes safety and familiar experiences over growth and expansion. The sixth resistance pattern was called effort programming, which creates beliefs that money must be earned through hard work, struggle, sacrifice, and often suffering, and that receiving abundance easily or joyfully somehow violates moral principles about the value of labor and the importance of earning what one receives. Florence taught that while honest work is noble and necessary, this programming often prevents people from recognizing and accepting opportunities for abundant income that do not require excessive effort or personal sacrifice. The seventh and final resistance pattern, Florence termed control programming, which manifests as the need to understand exactly how prosperity will manifest when it will arrive, and through what specific channels, rather than trusting in divine intelligence to orchestrate abundance through the perfect methods and timing that serve everyone's highest good. Florence explained that this need for control often blocks manifestation because it limits the infinite number of ways that abundance can flow into someone's life and prevents the universe from delivering prosperity through unexpected, delightful, miraculous channels that the logical mind could never anticipate or plan. After explaining these 7 resistance patterns, Florence taught the audience her technique for resistance recognition and release, which involved spending the final 20 minutes before sleep each night in gentle communion with the subconscious mind for the purpose of identifying and dissolving whatever resistance patterns might be blocking prosperity in that person's individual experience. She emphasized that this process required patience, compassion, and trust, rather than force or urgency, because resistance patterns developed over many years and needed time to dissolve completely, while new prosperity consciousness took root in the fertile soil of the subconscious mind. Janice learned to begin this practice by lying comfortably in her bed and breathing slowly and deeply while consciously releasing all worry about her family's financial situation, and instead focusing her attention on connecting with what Florence called the loving intelligence of her deeper mind that wanted nothing more than her complete happiness and fulfillment. The first step was to gently ask her subconscious mind to reveal any resistance patterns that might be preventing her from receiving the abundance that was her divine right, and then to listen without judgment as thoughts, images, feelings, or memories arose that might indicate areas where limiting beliefs were operating below her conscious awareness. On her first night of practice, Janice immediately recognized that she carried deep unworthiness programming stemming from her childhood, when her father had frequently told her that she was not smart enough, pretty enough, or good enough to expect anything special from life, and that she should be grateful for whatever small blessings came her way, without hoping for anything more. As these painful memories surfaced, Janice felt a mixture of sadness and relief, because she finally understood why she had always felt uncomfortable about wanting financial security for her family, and why she had unconsciously accepted struggle as normal, rather than believing that abundance was possible for someone like her. Instead of trying to argue with these limiting beliefs or force them to change, Janice learned to respond to her resistance patterns with the same compassion she would show to a frightened child who needed comfort and reassurance rather than criticism or correction. She would mentally speak to her unworthiness programming with words like, "I understand that you learned to believe I was not good enough because that is what you were taught. But now I know that every human being, including me, is worthy of infinite love and abundance, because we are all expressions of divine consciousness that lacks nothing and deserves everything good." Night after night, as Janice continued this gentle process of resistance recognition and release, she discovered layer after layer of limiting beliefs that had been influencing her experience without her conscious knowledge, including scarcity programming inherited from her Depression-era parents who had taught her that money was always scarce and had to be hoarded carefully, and spiritual confusion programming absorbed from sermons about the evils of materialism that had convinced her that wanting financial security somehow indicated weak faith or insufficient spiritual development. Each resistance pattern that surfaced was met with the same loving acceptance and gentle reprogramming as Janice learned to speak to her subconscious mind with words that Florence had taught, such as, "I release all beliefs that limit my prosperity, and I now accept that abundance is my natural state, and I am worthy of unlimited financial flow because I am a divine being expressing infinite potential, and money is spiritual energy that flows to me easily when I am aligned with love and service, and my family's financial security serves the highest good of all." Within 6 weeks of beginning this nightly practice of resistance recognition and release, Janice noticed that her anxiety about money had significantly decreased, and that she was sleeping more deeply and waking up with greater energy and optimism about her family's future, even though their external circumstances had not yet improved. But more importantly, she began to notice opportunities and possibilities that she had previously overlooked, including the realization that her excellent sewing skills and growing reputation for quality work could be expanded into a more profitable business, serving wealthy families in nearby towns who were willing to pay premium prices for custom alterations and original designs. On a cold December morning, exactly 8 weeks after Janice had attended Florence's lecture, she received an unexpected visit from Mrs. Caroline Whitfield, who lived in an elegant house in Bronxville, and who explained that she had heard about Janice's exceptional needlework skills from Mrs. Henderson and wanted to hire her to create a complete wardrobe for her daughter's wedding, including the bridal gown, 6 bridesmaids' dresses, and formal alterations for several female family members who would be attending the ceremony. The project would pay $347, which was more money than Janice had ever earned from a single source, and would provide enough income to cover their family's expenses for nearly 4 months. But the transformation in Janice's financial circumstances was only beginning because Mrs. Whitfield was so pleased with the quality and artistry of Janice's work that she recommended her services to friends and acquaintances throughout Westchester County, who began commissioning custom garments and alterations that gradually built Janice's business into one of the most sought-after dressmaking services in the region. Within 1 year, Janice was earning more than George had ever made at the textile mill, and their financial security was established on a foundation that could not be destroyed by factory closures, economic recessions, or any other external circumstances beyond their control. The principle behind resistance recognition and release is that the subconscious mind naturally wants to support our happiness and success, but can only do so when limiting beliefs and resistance patterns are gently identified and transformed through the kind of compassionate inner dialogue that creates safety for deep change to occur without triggering the protective mechanisms that often sabotage conscious attempts at personal transformation. Florence discovered that the pre-sleep period is optimal for this work because the subconscious mind is most accessible and receptive when the conscious mind is relaxed and non-defensive. As you continue resting tonight, your own resistance patterns are already beginning to dissolve through the power of these teachings and the loving intelligence of your subconscious mind that is always working to support your highest good and greatest prosperity in ways that serve not only your individual happiness, but also the well-being of everyone whose life is touched by your abundance. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered during her years of teaching prosperity principles that the universe is constantly communicating with every person through what she called the divine language of signs, which consists of synchronicities, symbols, numbers, repeated words, meaningful coincidences, and seemingly random events that carry specific messages about the manifestation process, and that learning to recognize and interpret these signs correctly is one of the most important skills for anyone who wants to consciously cooperate with spiritual laws in creating abundance rather than struggling against these laws through misunderstanding or ignorance of how the invisible realm operates to support human prosperity and happiness. She understood that most people miss these divine communications because they have been trained by modern materialistic thinking to dismiss anything that cannot be explained by logic, reason, or scientific analysis as mere coincidence, superstition, or wishful thinking, when in reality, these signs are precise indicators of how successfully someone's consciousness is aligned with the frequency of abundance and what adjustments, if any, need to be made in their thinking, feeling, or behavior to accelerate the manifestation of their desired prosperity in ways that serve their highest good and the highest good of all those who will be blessed by their financial freedom. Florence taught that signs appear in 3 distinct phases that correspond to the natural progression of manifestation from the invisible realm of pure potential through the intermediate realm of forming possibilities into the visible realm of physical experience, and that understanding this progression allows people to recognize where they are in their abundance journey and what kinds of signs to expect at each stage of the process, rather than becoming discouraged when they do not immediately see dramatic external changes, or becoming overconfident when early signs appear before the manifestation is fully stabilized in physical reality. The first phase Florence called microsigns, which are subtle internal and external indicators that the subconscious mind has accepted new prosperity programming and is beginning to reorganize thoughts, emotions, and behavioral patterns to align with abundance consciousness, even though external circumstances may not yet show any visible improvement. These microsigns often include changes in sleep patterns with deeper, more restorative rest, increased energy and optimism during waking hours, spontaneous insights about money or business opportunities, unexpected feelings of gratitude or appreciation, and small synchronicities such as finding coins, overhearing conversations about prosperity, or noticing abundance-related words and images appearing frequently in daily experience. The second phase, she termed medium signs, which are more obvious, external indicators that the manifestation process is gaining momentum and that opportunities for increased income are beginning to form in the invisible realm where all creation originates before appearing in physical form. Medium signs typically include unexpected phone calls or conversations about money work or business new ideas for creating income that feel exciting and achievable. Small amounts of unexpected money, such as refunds, rebates, tips, or gifts, increased interest from potential customers or employers, and the appearance of people in one's life who have resources, connections, or opportunities that could lead to greater financial flow. The third phase Florence called macro signs, which are unmistakable external manifestations that indicate the prosperity that was seated in consciousness during the sleep programming period, has now stabilized sufficiently to begin appearing as concrete opportunities, income sources, or financial improvements that can be measured and verified through normal practical means. Macro signs include job offers, business opportunities, investment possibilities, unexpected inheritances or gifts, significant increases in income from existing sources, and the resolution of financial problems that had previously seemed insurmountable through conventional methods. Florence emphasized that learning to recognize and correctly interpret these signs required what she called spiritual discernment, which is the ability to perceive the deeper meaning behind surface appearances and to understand that every experience contains information about one's consciousness and alignment with universal laws, regardless of whether that experience appears positive or negative according to ordinary human judgment. She taught that even apparent setbacks or delays often contain important guidance about adjustments needed in one's approach to manifestation, and that maintaining faith and gratitude throughout all phases of the sign progression was essential for allowing the complete unfoldment of prosperity without interference from doubt, fear, or impatience. Her name was Denise Margaret Sullivan, and she was 59 years old when she first learned about Florence's teaching on prosperity signs during a women's study group that met weekly in the basement of St. Mary's Catholic Church in Boston during the autumn of 1922, when the country was enjoying unprecedented economic prosperity, following the recovery from the brief recession that had occurred immediately after the Great War ended, and millions of Americans were discovering new opportunities for wealth creation through investments, business ownership, and professional advancement that had been impossible during the years of wartime restrictions and economic uncertainty. Denise had been widowed 3 years earlier when her husband Timothy died suddenly from a heart attack at age 58, leaving her with a modest inheritance of $4,700 and a small house in Dorchester that was paid off but required constant maintenance and repairs that strained her limited budget despite her careful management of household expenses and her part-time work as a seamstress for a local dry cleaning establishment that paid her $12 per week for alterating and mending clothes that customers brought in for cleaning or repair. The house where Denise lived was a 2-story wooden structure built in 1896 with 4 small rooms on each floor and a basement that she rented to a young Irish immigrant named Patrick Murphy, who worked at the nearby shipyard and paid her $8 monthly for his furnished room, which helped supplement her income, but still left her with barely enough money to cover property taxes, heating, oil, electricity, and food, while setting aside small amounts for the inevitable repairs that older houses require to remain safe and comfortable throughout New England's harsh winter seasons. Denise had always been a deeply religious woman who attended Mass every morning at 6:30 before beginning her daily routine of household chores and part-time work. But she had never heard spiritual teachings that connected faith with financial prosperity because her traditional Catholic education had emphasized the virtue of poverty and sacrifice as pathways to salvation rather than teaching that God desired abundance and happiness for His children in their earthly lives as well as in their eternal destination. When Mrs. Catherine O'Brien invited her to attend the women's study group that was exploring what she called modern spiritual approaches to practical problems, Denise felt curious enough to overcome her initial hesitation about anything that might conflict with her orthodox religious beliefs. The study group met every Thursday evening at 7 o'clock in a comfortable room that the church provided for community activities, and that particular evening, 14 women ranging in age from 32 to 71 had gathered to discuss a book about spiritual prosperity written by someone named Florence Scovel Shinn, whose teachings were becoming increasingly popular among educated women who wanted to improve their families' financial circumstances through what the author called scientific prayer and conscious cooperation with divine laws that governed abundance and success in all areas of human experience. Mrs. O'Brien, who served as the group's discussion leader that evening, was a well-educated widow in her mid-60s whose late husband had been a successful attorney and who had maintained her comfortable lifestyle after his death through wise investments and rental properties that provided steady income without requiring her to seek employment outside her home. She explained to the group that Florence Scovel Shinn taught that poverty and financial struggle were not God's will for His children, but were the result of incorrect thinking and unconscious resistance to receiving the abundance that divine love wanted to provide for everyone who learned to align their consciousness with spiritual laws of prosperity, rather than limiting beliefs absorbed from family society or religious teachings that misunderstood the true nature of divine providence. That evening's discussion focused specifically on what Florence called the divine language of signs through which the universe communicated with individuals about their manifestation progress, and Denise listened with growing fascination as Mrs. O'Brien explained that signs were not mere coincidences, but were actually precise feedback about how successfully someone's consciousness was aligned with abundance and what adjustments might be needed to accelerate the manifestation of their desired prosperity. She learned that signs appeared in predictable phases, beginning with subtle internal changes and progressing through increasingly obvious external indicators, until the desired manifestation appeared as concrete, measurable improvement in financial circumstances. When Denise returned to her small house that evening, she decided to experiment with the sign recognition techniques that Mrs. O'Brien had described, even though part of her mind worried that this might somehow conflict with her Catholic faith, which had always taught her to accept whatever circumstances God allowed in her life, without questioning whether different outcomes might be possible through spiritual practices that were not part of traditional church teachings. She began paying careful attention to her thoughts, emotions, and external experiences, looking for what Florence called micro-signs that might indicate whether her consciousness was beginning to align with greater prosperity despite her current financial limitations. Within the first week of practicing sign recognition, Denise noticed several micro-signs that she might have previously dismissed as meaningless coincidences, including finding a quarter on the sidewalk outside her house, discovering an extra dollar bill in the pocket of a coat she had not worn for several months, receiving an unexpected compliment from her supervisor at the dry cleaning shop about the quality of her work, and overhearing a conversation between two customers about successful investments that one of them had made in local real estate. She also noticed that her sleep had become deeper and more restorative, and that she was waking up with unusual feelings of optimism about her future, despite the fact that her external circumstances had not changed in any measurable way. During the second week, Denise began to observe what Florence would have classified as medium signs, including a phone call from her deceased husband's former business partner, who mentioned that he had been thinking about her and wondering if she might be interested in providing seamstress services for his wife, who was planning an extensive wardrobe renovation and was looking for someone with Denise's reputation for fine needlework and attention to detail. She also received a small, unexpected refund of $3.47 from the electric company due to an overpayment they had discovered during a routine audit, and noticed that she was having spontaneous ideas about ways to expand her alteration business to serve more customers in surrounding neighborhoods. The most significant medium sign appeared during the third week when Denise was walking home from her Thursday evening study group and happened to meet her neighbor, Mrs. Eleanor Fitzpatrick, who mentioned that she had recently inherited a beautiful Singer sewing machine from her deceased sister and was looking for someone who could make good use of it because she herself had never learned to sew beyond basic mending and felt that the machine should go to someone who would appreciate its quality and capabilities. When Mrs. Fitzpatrick learned about Denise's alteration work, she immediately offered to give her the machine, which was worth at least $60 and would allow Denise to take on more complex sewing projects that required precision and speed. But the most dramatic macro sign occurred exactly 4 weeks after Denise had begun practicing Florence's sign recognition techniques, when she received an unexpected visit from Father Michael O'Sullivan, who served as pastor of a wealthy parish in Back Bay, and who explained that several prominent families in his congregation had expressed interest in finding a skilled seamstress who could provide high-quality alterations and custom sewing services for their extensive wardrobes and social commitments. Father O'Sullivan had heard about Denise's excellent reputation from Mrs. O'Brien, who attended both parishes, and he was prepared to provide referrals that could potentially triple her monthly income if she was willing to travel to Back Bay twice weekly to serve these affluent clients who were accustomed to paying premium prices for exceptional craftsmanship. The opportunity that Father O'Sullivan presented represented exactly the kind of breakthrough that Florence taught her students to expect when their consciousness became properly aligned with abundance, because it appeared through a channel that Denise could never have anticipated or planned, and it provided a solution to her financial limitations that honored both her skills and her spiritual values, while creating prosperity that would benefit not only herself, but also the clients who would receive beautiful clothing and the broader community that would benefit from increased economic activity and circulation of money. Denise accepted Father O'Sullivan's referrals and within 6 months had established a thriving business serving some of Boston's most socially prominent families who appreciated her combination of exceptional skill, absolute discretion, and reasonable prices that made her services accessible even to clients who could afford much more expensive alternatives. Her monthly income increased from $20 to $68, and her reputation for quality work led to additional referrals that gradually built her client base to the point where she could afford to hire an assistant and eventually expand into a small shop that employed 3 other seamstresses and served customers throughout the greater Boston area. The progression of signs that led to Denise's financial transformation illustrates the precision with which the universe responds to consciousness alignment and demonstrates that prosperity manifestation follows predictable patterns that can be recognized and cooperated with once someone understands the spiritual laws that govern abundance and learns to interpret the divine communications that are constantly being transmitted through the language of signs that most people overlook or misunderstand because they have not been taught to recognize the deeper intelligence that operates behind all external appearances. Florence emphasized that sign recognition requires what she called expectant awareness, which is a state of consciousness that remains alert to divine communications without becoming anxious, impatient, or obsessed with forcing signs to appear according to human timelines or expectations. She taught that signs appear naturally when consciousness is properly aligned with abundance, and that trying to manufacture or manipulate signs often interferes with the organic unfolding of manifestation because it introduces mental tension and emotional desperation that disrupts the peaceful, confident state of being that allows divine intelligence to work most effectively through human experience. The practice of reading prosperity signs also serves as a form of faith development, because it gradually builds confidence in the reality of spiritual laws and the responsiveness of divine intelligence to human needs and desires. When those needs and desires are aligned with love service and the highest good of all concerned rather than selfish grabbing or fearful hoarding, that restricts the natural flow of abundance through individual experience into wider circles of blessing that ultimately benefit entire communities and societies. As you continue resting tonight, your own consciousness is becoming increasingly sensitive to the divine language of signs that is already beginning to appear in your experience as confirmation that your prosperity programming is taking root in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind and will soon begin manifesting as measurable improvements in your financial circumstances through channels that will delight and amaze you with their perfection and timing. One of the most challenging aspects of applying Florence Scovel Shinn's prosperity principles that her students consistently struggled with was learning to trust what she called divine timing, which operates according to spiritual laws that are completely different from human expectations about when manifestations should appear and how quickly financial improvements should become visible after someone begins practicing abundance programming during their sleep preparation periods. Florence understood that impatience and anxiety about timing were among the most common obstacles that prevented students from receiving their desired prosperity because these emotional states created mental interference that disrupted the natural unfolding of manifestation through what she called the perfect cosmic schedule that always delivers every good thing at exactly the right moment for the highest benefit of all concerned. Florence taught that divine timing is based on factors that human consciousness cannot perceive or evaluate, including the need for consciousness preparation, where the person must develop sufficient spiritual maturity to handle increased prosperity wisely and responsibly, the coordination with other people's life plans. Since every manifestation involves multiple individuals, whose paths must align at precisely the right moments and the arrangement of external circumstances, that often requires complex behind-the-scenes orchestration in the invisible realm before opportunities can appear in the visible world in ways that seem natural, logical, and readily accessible to the person who has been preparing to receive them. She explained that premature manifestation can actually be harmful because receiving abundance before developing the consciousness to sustain it often leads to loss, poor decisions, or the kind of sudden wealth that creates more problems than it solves, while delayed manifestation allows time for the person to grow into their prosperity, gradually and permanently, in ways that create lasting transformation rather than temporary improvement, that disappears when external conditions change, or when the person's underlying consciousness patterns reassert themselves and recreate familiar limitation, despite their conscious desires for continued abundance. Florence also understood that divine timing operates according to what she called spiritual seasons, which are cyclical periods of preparation, germination, growth, flowering, and harvest that mirror natural agricultural cycles but occur in the invisible realm of consciousness, development, where seeds of prosperity planted through sleep programming must go through necessary stages of subconscious integration before they can emerge as visible opportunities and concrete financial improvements that can be measured through ordinary practical means. The most important principle Florence taught about divine timing was that apparent delays are never actually delays, but are periods of invisible preparation during which divine intelligence is orchestrating people's circumstances and opportunities in ways that will allow the manifestation to appear at exactly the right moment through exactly the right channels to serve the highest good of everyone involved, rather than just satisfying the immediate desires of the person who is practicing prosperity programming without consideration for the broader implications of their abundance on family, community, and society. His name was Roger Franklin Thompson, and he was 57 years old when he first learned about Florence's teachings on divine timing during a men's business discussion group that met monthly at the Union Club in downtown Detroit during the prosperous autumn of 1924, when American industry was reaching new heights of productivity and efficiency, and many ordinary working men were discovering opportunities for wealth creation through stock market investments, real estate purchases, and business ownership that had previously been available only to established wealthy families with inherited capital and extensive business connections. Roger worked as a foreman at the River Rouge Ford plant, where he supervised 37 men in the engine assembly department and earned $42 per week, which was considered excellent wages for industrial work during that era, but which felt insufficient to Roger, who had dreams of starting his own automotive parts manufacturing business and building the kind of substantial wealth that would allow him to provide generously for his wife Martha and their 4 children, while also contributing meaningfully to his community through charitable giving and civic leadership that successful businessmen were expected to demonstrate as part of their social responsibilities. The challenge Roger faced was that starting a manufacturing business required significant capital for equipment, machinery building, rental raw materials, and working capital to cover expenses during the initial months when production would be limited and customer relationships would still be developing. And despite his careful saving over 15 years of steady employment, Roger had accumulated only $2,300, which was perhaps 1/3 of what he would need to launch even. A modest operation that could compete effectively with established companies that had advantages of scale experience and established customer relationships. Roger had heard about Florence Scovel Shinn's prosperity teachings from his friend William Harrison, who worked in the plant's accounting department and who claimed that he had dramatically improved his family's financial situation by practicing what he called scientific sleep programming, based on spiritual principles that Florence had discovered through her work with wealthy New York clients who had used these methods to multiply their abundance during the economic expansion following the Great War. William insisted that these techniques were not wishful thinking or religious superstition, but were based on precise spiritual laws that operated with the same reliability as physical laws, and that produced measurable results when applied with consistency, faith, and proper understanding. Despite his Methodist upbringing, which had taught him to be skeptical of anything that promised easy solutions to serious problems, Roger decided to attend the Union Club discussion group, where William had arranged for a guest speaker who had studied with Florence personally and who would explain the spiritual principles of abundance manifestation, including the crucial role of divine timing in ensuring that prosperity appears at exactly the right moment to serve everyone's highest good, rather than creating problems through premature or inappropriate wealth that the person is not yet prepared to handle wisely. The speaker that evening was Dr. Charles Whitmore, who had been a successful physician in Manhattan before studying with Florence and learning to apply her prosperity principles to expand his medical practice into one of the most profitable and prestigious healing centers in New York City, serving wealthy patients who paid premium fees for his combination of conventional medical expertise and spiritual understanding of the connection between consciousness and physical health. Dr. Whitmore explained that divine timing was perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of manifestation, because people expected immediate results, while divine intelligence operated according to perfect cosmic scheduling that always delivered every good thing at exactly the right moment for maximum benefit and minimum complications. Dr. Whitmore taught the group that learning to trust divine timing required what Florence called surrender without resignation, which meant maintaining absolute faith in the certainty of manifestation while releasing all attachment to specific timeframes, methods, or external appearances that might suggest that the desired prosperity was delayed, blocked, or impossible to achieve through spiritual means. He explained that this state of consciousness was different from passive resignation, which gives up hope and stops taking inspired action, and was also different from anxious striving, which tries to force outcomes according to human will, rather than cooperating with divine intelligence that has access to information and possibilities that human consciousness cannot perceive or evaluate. Roger learned that the key to working successfully with divine timing was to use his sleep programming period not only for abundance affirmations and identity transformation, but also for what Florence called timing surrender, where he would consciously release his impatience and anxiety about when his business opportunity would appear, while maintaining complete confidence that divine intelligence was orchestrating all necessary factors behind the scenes to ensure that his manifestation would arrive at precisely the right moment, through precisely the right channels to serve his highest good and the highest good of all those who would be affected by his success. The specific technique Dr. Whitmore taught involved adding a timing surrender component to Roger's nightly prosperity routine, where after completing his abundance affirmations and identity programming, he would spend 5 minutes in conscious communion with divine intelligence, stating his willingness to receive his desired prosperity according to divine timing rather than human expectations, and expressing gratitude for the perfect coordination that was already taking place in the invisible realm to prepare for his manifestation, even though he could not yet see any evidence of this preparation in his external circumstances. Roger practiced this enhanced prosperity routine faithfully every night for exactly 11 months. And during this period, he experienced numerous signs that his consciousness was properly aligned with abundance, including increased confidence about his business plans, spontaneous insights about manufacturing processes and market opportunities, several small unexpected income increases through overtime work and bonuses, and the development of valuable relationships with other men at the plant who shared his entrepreneurial ambitions and who began discussing the possibility of pooling their resources and expertise to create business opportunities that none of them could achieve individually. But the most significant development during this 11-month period was Roger's growing understanding of why divine timing operates differently from human expectations, as he began to recognize that his original business plan had been based on incomplete information and limited vision that would have led to costly mistakes if he had been able to start his company immediately after beginning his prosperity programming. Through conversations with other entrepreneurs, through his reading of trade publications, and through insights that came to him during his sleep programming sessions, Roger gradually realized that the automotive industry was about to undergo dramatic changes that would require different approaches to manufacturing, marketing, and customer service than he had originally envisioned. The breakthrough that Roger had been programming for finally appeared in September of 1925, when Henry Ford announced plans to expand production capacity at the River Rouge plant and invited experienced foremen to submit proposals for independent contractors who could provide specialized components and services that Ford would purchase rather than manufacture internally as part of the company's new strategy of working with smaller suppliers who could offer flexibility, innovation, and cost advantages that large-scale internal production could not match. This opportunity was far superior to Roger's original plan for starting an independent manufacturing business because it provided immediate access to a major customer with guaranteed purchase contracts that would ensure steady income from the beginning, while also allowing gradual expansion into additional markets once the initial relationship with Ford was established and proven successful. The timing was perfect because Roger had spent the previous 11 months developing exactly the knowledge, relationships, and financial resources needed to take advantage of this opportunity, while also gaining the emotional maturity and spiritual understanding necessary to handle business success without becoming arrogant, materialistic, or disconnected from his deeper values. Roger submitted a proposal for manufacturing specialized gaskets and seals that Ford needed for their new V8 engine design, and his combination of technical expertise, cost efficiency, and reliable delivery schedules earned him a contract worth over $30,000 annually, which provided sufficient income to hire 12 employees, lease appropriate facilities, purchase necessary equipment, and still generate profit margins that allowed rapid business growth throughout the late 1920s, when the American economy reached unprecedented levels of prosperity and expansion. But perhaps more importantly, Roger's experience with divine timing taught him to trust spiritual intelligence over human planning in all areas of his business development. And this trust allowed him to recognize and capitalize on opportunities that his competitors missed because they were operating solely from logical analysis and market research, rather than also consulting the deeper wisdom that flows through consciousness when someone learns to cooperate with divine laws that govern all manifestation, whether in business relationships, health, or any other area of human experience. The principle of divine timing that Roger learned through his prosperity programming demonstrates that spiritual laws operate according to perfect intelligence that coordinates multiple factors, including individual consciousness, development, interpersonal relationships, external circumstances, and cosmic cycles in ways that ensure every manifestation appears at exactly the right moment to serve the highest good of all concerned, rather than just satisfying immediate desires without consideration for long-term consequences or broader implications for community well-being and social harmony. Florence taught that learning to trust divine timing actually accelerates manifestation because it eliminates the mental interference that anxiety and impatience create in the subconscious mind and allows divine intelligence to work through human consciousness more efficiently than when someone is constantly second-guessing, evaluating, or trying to control the manifestation process through willpower and logical analysis that cannot access the broader perspective available to spiritual intelligence that operates beyond the limitations of individual human understanding. The practice of timing surrender also develops what Florence called spiritual maturity, which is the capacity to maintain faith and positive action even when external appearances suggest that desired outcomes are impossible, delayed, or blocked by circumstances beyond individual control. And this spiritual maturity is actually a prerequisite for receiving and maintaining substantial abundance, because wealth without wisdom often creates more problems than it solves, and can become a source of suffering rather than blessing if the person receiving it lacks the consciousness development necessary to handle prosperity responsibly and joyfully. As you continue resting tonight, your own relationship with divine timing is being perfected through these teachings, and your subconscious mind is learning to trust the perfect cosmic scheduling that is already coordinating all factors necessary for your prosperity to manifest at exactly the right moment, through exactly the right channels, to serve your highest good and the highest good of all those whose lives will be blessed by your abundance. Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that individual manifestation occurs within what she called the collective field of abundance, which is an invisible network connecting all people aligned with prosperity consciousness. This field amplifies individual manifestation by providing energetic support that makes it easier to maintain the high frequency necessary for attracting wealth and opportunities that serve both personal fulfillment and the greater good. When someone practices prosperity programming during sleep, they connect with the universal abundance grid, which consists of all thoughts, feelings, and intentions of every person throughout history who has aligned with unlimited supply. This connection provides access to wisdom and manifestation power that far exceeds what any individual could generate alone, regardless of their dedication or spiritual advancement. Florence taught that the collective field operates through what she called abundance momentum that builds exponentially as more people participate consciously through sleep programming and vibrational alignment. She discovered that scarcity is an artificial condition created by ignorance of spiritual laws, when in reality, abundance is infinite and increases when shared rather than hoarded, because prosperity consciousness generates more prosperity consciousness through the multiplication principle. Her name was Cheryl Ann Davidson, and she was 55 years old when she learned about collective field teachings during a women's spiritual circle in San Francisco in 1925. Cheryl worked as a bookkeeper, earning $28 per week, and felt frustrated by her inability to participate in the real estate opportunities she processed for wealthy clients who seemed to effortlessly accumulate properties. The circle was led by Mrs. Eleanor Richardson, a widow, who had expanded her wealth through spiritual intuition gained during meditation and prayer. Mrs. Richardson taught collective abundance activation, which involved adding a group connection component to individual sleep programming, where each woman would spend 10 minutes before sleep consciously linking with all others worldwide practicing abundance programming simultaneously. Cheryl learned to complete her individual abundance affirmations, then expand her awareness to embrace the worldwide community of abundance seekers engaged in the same spiritual work. The visualization involved imagining streams of golden light flowing from her heart to connect with thousands of other hearts, where people were practicing prosperity programming at that exact moment. Cheryl practiced faithfully for 63 days and began experiencing miraculous synchronicities including spontaneous insights about real estate investments and unexpected conversations providing valuable property information. During her 9th week, she met Mr. George Whitaker in Golden Gate Park, who was selling an apartment building for $4,200 that generated monthly income of $136. Despite having only $847 in savings, Cheryl's connection with the collective field gave her confidence to accept his offer. She arranged financing through Morrison & Associates, who provided a private loan based on her excellent performance and knowledge. Within 6 months, she had covered expenses and begun looking for her second property acquisition. The principle underlying collective abundance activation is that consciousness is a field phenomenon connecting all beings, and when people align with universal abundance, they become part of the divine prosperity network, including spiritual witnesses, working from higher dimensions to support human evolution toward greater harmony and prosperity. As you rest tonight, you are becoming part of the collective abundance field, connecting millions of hearts worldwide, simultaneously opening to receive prosperity through spiritual alignment. And your manifestation is supported by this vast network of loving consciousness, operating continuously to help every sincere soul achieve financial freedom. As we approach the final phase of this sacred journey through Florence Scovel Shinn's Millionaire night routine, you have absorbed principles that can completely transform your relationship with money, prosperity, and abundance. You learned that words are vibrational codes capable of reprogramming the subconscious mind during the receptive pre-sleep state, when new beliefs about abundance can take root in deeper awareness where lasting transformation originates. You discovered that prosperity begins with identity transformation, where someone becomes wealthy in consciousness before becoming wealthy in reality, and that this requires deep subconscious reprogramming during sleep, when the mind enters receptive states that bypass resistance. You learned about dissolving resistance patterns that block abundance and recognizing the divine language of signs that communicate manifestation progress through 3 phases from micro to macro indicators. You understood divine timing, which coordinates multiple factors to ensure manifestation appears at exactly the right moment, and discovered the collective abundance field connecting all prosperity-aligned people, providing energetic support that amplifies individual manifestation through worldwide community consciousness. Now I share the most powerful transformation story, demonstrating how these principles create miraculous breakthrough when someone fully embraces the Millionaire night routine with complete faith and daily practice. Her name was Susan Elizabeth Hamilton, and she was 62 years old when she faced the most severe financial crisis of her life during winter 1926. A series of disasters had destroyed everything she had built during 37 years of careful saving and investing. The small bank holding her $11,432 suddenly collapsed due to fraud, leaving depositors with worthless certificates. Her house was being foreclosed for $3,700 in claimed back payments. Her 79-year-old mother, Emma, required expensive heart treatment costing $60 monthly, while Susan earned only $14 weekly as a seamstress. By December, Susan faced losing both home and ability to care for her mother, with total assets of $47 and sewing skills, providing barely enough for food and heating during Cleveland's brutal winter. During this darkest period, neighbor Mrs. Dorothy Kellerman brought her Florence's booklet containing the complete Millionaire night routine instructions. Despite Methodist skepticism about miraculous solutions, Susan felt drawn to experiment because conventional approaches had failed. That first night, gratitude felt forced, but she acknowledged being alive, having shelter, and retaining workability. Abundance visualization felt artificial as her mind returned to poverty images, but she persisted because she had nothing else to try. Prosperity mantras felt blasphemous given her upbringing about accepting poverty with resignation. But she whispered, "I am one with infinite abundance, and abundance is one with me," 21 times nightly, while fighting voices insisting she was being foolish. For 3 weeks, no external changes occurred, but she began sleeping more peacefully with slightly more energy and optimism. The first sign appeared during week 4 when she received a letter about Uncle William's bequest of $893 from California, providing money for mother's treatment and partial mortgage payment, convincing the bank to delay foreclosure 90 days. This demonstrated divine intelligence working behind scenes and increased her faith in the routine. During week 7, medium signs appeared, including spontaneous business ideas, increased confidence with customers, and growing sense of her valuable skills. The breakthrough came week 9 when she encountered Mrs. Margaret Thornton, who owned an upscale boutique, desperately seeking skilled seamstress for wealthy clients. Susan's demonstration work was so expert that Mrs. Thornton offered $35 weekly plus special project fees. Within 6 months, Susan earned more than ever imagined through private clients paying premium prices, and within 2 years had purchased her cottage outright and established Mother's Medical Trust Fund. By 1930, she was recognized as one of Cleveland's most successful independent businesswomen whose prosperity inspired others about spiritual abundance principles. Susan's story demonstrates how the millionaire night routine creates miraculous transformation, even in desperate circumstances, when someone maintains absolute faith despite temporary appearances and persists with daily practice, regardless of delays that test commitment to divine intelligence over human logic. As you prepare to receive the final sealing, remember, you carry the same unlimited potential that transformed Susan's life and countless others who learned to use sleep time for abundance, programming, aligning human will with divine will, through precise application of words, thoughts, emotions, and surrender, opening channels for miracles to flow into physical experience. Now, as we arrive at the sacred culmination of this millionaire night routine, the moment has come for you to receive the master seal that will anchor every principle, every story, and every technique into the deepest foundations of your subconscious mind, where they will work continuously throughout your sleep, transforming your consciousness and circumstances until your external reality reflects the abundant, prosperous, financially free identity that is your true spiritual nature. Even if you are sleeping now, there is a part of your consciousness that never sleeps, a deeper awareness that remains eternally awake and receptive to truth. And it is this deepest aspect that will receive the master decree and carry it forward into manifestation, regardless of what your conscious mind may think, because spiritual laws operate beyond human logic and produce results through divine intelligence that surpasses earthly understanding. Breathe with me now, because your body knows how to breathe, and your soul knows how to receive, and your subconscious mind knows how to absorb these words that carry the vibrational frequency of unlimited prosperity that Florence Scovel Shinn discovered over 100 years ago, and that has created documented millionaires in every generation since her teachings began circulating among those who had ears to hear and hearts to believe. Take a deep breath in and feel golden light entering your entire being. And as you exhale, release every thought belief pattern that has limited your prosperity, because tonight you reclaim your divine inheritance of unlimited financial flow. Breathe in again, connecting with the infinite source that exists beyond any external circumstance, and exhale, releasing into complete trust in divine timing, divine methods, divine intelligence. Now I will speak the master word seal in 3 waves, and with each wave you will feel these truths sinking deeper into your subconscious mind, like seeds planted in fertile soil that will manifest as permanent improvement in your financial circumstances. First wave, spoken softly. Money flows to me now, and it cannot be otherwise. I am naturally wealthy, and it cannot be otherwise. Abundance is my nature, and it cannot be otherwise. Second wave, spoken with clarity. Money flows to me now, and it cannot be otherwise. I am naturally wealthy, and it cannot be otherwise. Abundance is my nature, and it cannot be otherwise. Third wave, spoken with universal authority. Money flows to me now, and it cannot be otherwise. I am naturally wealthy, and it cannot be otherwise. Abundance is my nature, and it cannot be otherwise. Now receive the identity decree that establishes who you are in the realm of infinite supply. I am a money magnet while I sleep. This is who I am. Wealth finds me easily and continuously. This is my reality. I receive abundance in my sleep. This is my nature. And now, the final sealing that locks these truths into your consciousness for all time. And so, it is sealed in my consciousness. And so, it is sealed in my subconscious. And so, it is sealed in my energy field. And so, it is sealed for all time. I am the abundance I seek. I am the wealth I desire. I am the prosperity I claim. And it cannot be otherwise. It is finished. It is done. It is sealed. Rest now in certainty that everything has been accomplished in the invisible realm where all manifestation originates. Your only responsibility is to continue living with joy and gratitude, while divine intelligence orchestrates the perfect delivery of your abundance through channels that serve your highest good. The Millionaire Night Routine is now permanently programmed into your subconscious mind and will continue working automatically every night, whether you remember these teachings or not, because spiritual laws operate beyond memory and produce results through consciousness aligned with divine will. When you wake, you may remember everything or nothing, but you will be different because transformation has occurred at levels deeper than conscious awareness, and you will begin noticing signs and opportunities indicating your prosperity is manifesting according to divine timing through divine methods. Rest, now wealthy one. Your financial freedom is already accomplished. Your abundance is already flowing. Your prosperity is already sealed. It is finished. And so it is.